They always called me the ugly one. Even if they didn't say it out loud, I could hear it in their silence. I could see it in the way their eyes skipped over me like I wasn't even there. My name is Riva, the youngest of three sisters. I was never the favorite, never the cherished one. I was the one who learned to live in the shadows of their shine. Growing up in a modest home in upstate New York, the air always carried the scent of my mother's rose water and the echo of my sister's laughter. Talia, the eldest, had the kind of beauty that belonged on magazine covers: high cheekbones, skin like silk, and eyes that glittered like broken stars. Jasmine, the middle child, was wild and charming. People followed her like she carried gravity in her smile. And then there was me, Riva, the one they forgot to mention. The one who always stood off to the side in every family photo. Our house had 5 rooms, but only 4 were filled with warmth. Mine was cold, dim, crammed with hand-me-down furniture and posters I put up just to feel something. I didn't even get curtains like the others. Just thin blinds that clattered every time the wind sighed through the cracks. It had always been this way, and I had gotten used to it, or so I thought. The first time I felt it, that something strange had shifted, was during the annual summer family dinner. It was my mother's idea to keep the tradition going, though no one really cared. My parents were always too wrapped up in Talia's corporate job and Jasmine's creative exploits. I was just the one who brought the wine and helped with the dishes. That evening, I wore a soft beige dress. Nothing special, but better than my usual. I had even curled my hair. When I walked into the living room, I paused at the threshold. The scent of roasted rosemary chicken drifted in from the kitchen, and everyone was already seated, glasses clinking, voices rising and falling like a play I didn't audition for. No one noticed me walk in. No one. I stood there for a solid 10 seconds. And then, finally, Jasmine looked up and said, "Oh, Riva, you're here." Her tone wasn't warm. It was like she had just remembered to bring a napkin. I smiled,
Thin. Practiced.
and took my seat. That was the moment, the first flicker. I felt it not in what they said, but in what they didn't. I looked around and realized the dining table had been set for 5, but only 4 name cards were placed. My mother, my father, Talia, and Jasmine.
Not me.
I stared at the plain white plate in front of me, suddenly unsure if I had just walked into someone else's memory. When I asked, "Did someone forget my card?" my mother smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, darling, it must have fallen off. It's around here somewhere." But she didn't look for it. No one did. Later that evening, I went to the bathroom and locked the door behind me. My reflection stared back from the mirror. I scanned my face, pale, a few blemishes, my chin a little too sharp. But nothing had changed drastically. Or had it? I leaned in, squinting. I had always hated my nose. I had always thought my eyes looked too tired. But tonight they looked different.
Deeper.
Like they knew something I didn't. I told myself I was being paranoid. Back at the table, laughter echoed, stories flew, and inside jokes passed over my head like they were speaking another language. I sat silently, sipping my wine, nodding at all the right moments. Then something odd happened. When Talia brought out her engagement ring to show off, a massive emerald-cut diamond that probably cost more than my yearly salary, everyone leaned in to admire it. Everyone except me. I was still chewing a bite of chicken when Talia looked at me and said, "Riva, try not to get oil on the tablecloth, okay? This is expensive." I hadn't dropped anything. My plate was spotless. But still, my father chuckled awkwardly and mumbled, "She's always been a little clumsy." I blinked. I didn't spill anything. Talia just smiled. One of those smiles that said, "Of course you didn't, sweetheart. We just expect so little from you." And that's when I saw it, the quick look between Jasmine and my mother. Not long enough for anyone else to catch, but sharp enough for me to feel it like a paper cut. It was subtle, practiced, like they had rehearsed this part. That's when my chest began to feel tight. I pushed away my plate and excused myself from the table. Outside, the air was cooler, a breeze wrapping around me like invisible arms. I sat on the porch steps, my mind spinning. Something about tonight felt off. And it wasn't just the forgotten name card. It was in their eyes. In the way their laughter had an edge I hadn't noticed before. In the strange glances I wasn't meant to see. A cat meowed in the distance. I stared at the moon, full and silver, hanging low over the trees like it was watching me. I wondered, not for the first time, what life would have been like if I had been born different. Prettier. More noticeable. I heard the door creak open behind me. Jasmine stepped out, barefoot, holding a half-empty glass of sangria. You okay? I nodded. She sat beside me, but didn't say anything for a minute. Then she muttered, "They don't mean to leave you out, you know." I turned to her slowly. "So, you noticed?" She bit her lip, then sipped her drink. "It's just how things are. You've always been quiet. In your own world." That's when it hit me. That was their excuse. That was how they justified it. I wasn't like them, therefore, I was invisible. I wanted to say something clever, something scathing, but all I could manage was, "I think something's wrong." She raised a brow. "What do you mean?" I looked at her. Really looked. Her face was unreadable. "I don't know. Just something feels different." Jasmine didn't answer. She just nodded like she understood something I didn't. Then she stood up, kissed my forehead softly, and whispered, "Get some rest." I watched her walk back inside. But the way she said that, "get some rest," didn't sound comforting. It sounded like a warning. I couldn't sleep that night. Even after I drove back to my apartment, a tiny one-bedroom on the 4th floor overlooking a grocery store parking lot, something inside me kept turning over and over like a washing machine stuck in spin cycle. Jasmine's words, her tone, the half-empty stare in her eyes when she told me to get some rest, none of it would let me go. I sat in the dark with only the kitchen light on, sipping herbal tea I didn't even like. I stared at the wall clock. 1:57 a.m. Tick.
Tick. Tick.
That sound filled the silence between my thoughts like a metronome timing my unraveling. The next morning I woke up before my alarm, if I even slept at all. I looked in the mirror and felt that same weird jolt in my chest. My face looked tighter. My skin, was it smoother? I leaned in close, running my fingers along my jawline. It felt different. Not better. Not worse. Just changed. As if someone had slightly edited me while I was asleep. The paranoia whispered, "You're imagining it." Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something strange was happening. That dinner wasn't just awkward family tension. It was something deeper. Something darker. Like they were all in on a secret I wasn't supposed to know. And worse, like I was the secret. The next few days passed in a blur, but small things kept happening. Little inconsistencies. On Tuesday, I texted my mom asking if she wanted to meet for coffee. She replied, "Sorry, sweetheart, I've got a doctor's appointment. Next week." I said okay. But that evening, when I was scrolling through social media, Jasmine posted a story of them both, sitting at a cafe across town, smiling over cappuccinos and croissants. The caption read, "Mom and me day sparkling heart #quality time." My heart dropped. I stared at the screen, trying to rationalize it. Maybe the appointment got canceled. Maybe they made a last-minute plan. But neither of them had mentioned anything. No message. No explanation. It felt deliberate. And then I noticed something even more unsettling. In the background of that photo, blurry but recognizable, was Talia. She was laughing, her hand midair as if telling a joke. All three of them were there. I hadn't been invited. I wasn't even mentioned. I clicked out of the story and locked my phone. The silence in my apartment grew loud again. That night, I dug through old family photo albums. Not the digital ones, the real ones I kept in a shoebox under my bed. I needed evidence. I needed to know I hadn't always been invisible. I pulled out picture after picture. Birthdays, vacations, holidays. And the more I looked, the more something gnawed at my stomach. In almost every photo, I was either cut off, blurred, or standing off to the side like I'd accidentally photobombed my own life. Even in the ones where I was centered, their faces were turned away, laughing at something else, someone else. And in one photo, A Christmas from maybe 6 years ago. I wasn't even there. But I remembered that Christmas. I remembered helping decorate the tree. I remembered burning my hand on the cider pot. I even remembered the silver tinsel scarf Talia made me wear for the family photo. But I wasn't in it.
Not even in the background.
I froze.
What kind of glitch was that?
The next day, I called Jasmine. I needed answers. She picked up after the third ring. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. Can we talk? Right now?
Yeah.
It's important.
She hesitated, then said, Okay, come by.
Just don't stay long. I have a thing later. I drove over with my heart thudding in my throat. Her apartment was minimalist and artsy, like she'd stepped into a Pinterest board. She greeted me with a polite smile, almost rehearsed, and poured us both lemon water. I looked at the photos. I blurted out. Jasmine blinked. What photos? Our family albums. I'm barely in them. And that Christmas from 2018? I'm not there at all. She sipped her drink. Maybe you weren't. I was, Jasmine. She tilted her head. Maybe you just remember being there. I stared at her. What's that supposed to mean? She leaned back, eyes scanning me carefully. Sometimes we imagine things we want. Maybe you wanted to be part of that memory so badly that you created it. It's common. No, I said firmly, standing up. Don't gaslight me. I was there. You're all acting weird, and I know it's not in my head. She stood up too, and for the first time, her voice lost its gentle calm. Riva, I think you should go. There was again that soft shutdown, that dismissal hidden in concern, that gentle pushback into the shadows. I stormed out. But before the door closed, I heard her whisper something under her breath. It was faint, but I caught it. She's starting to remember. I froze mid-step. What did she just say? I turned to open the door again, but it had already locked. Back in my car, hands trembling on the wheel, I couldn't breathe. What the hell was going on? Why did she say that? What did I forget? I pulled into a gas station parking lot and sat there for 20 minutes trying to calm my heartbeat. I needed answers. I needed to know what they were hiding. Later that night, I pulled up an old laptop I hadn't used in years, one I'd kept from high school. I was hoping to find older photos, old messages, anything to prove my memories weren't lying. And that's when I found the folder labeled Riva Private. I didn't remember creating it. Inside were dozens of video clips.
Some grainy.
Some clear. But all of them were recordings of me.
Sleeping. Cooking.
Sitting in silence. Some from angles that suggested someone had been filming me without my knowledge. My stomach turned cold. The timestamps were recent, and none of the clips were on my phone. Someone had transferred them, stored them, cataloged them. I shut the laptop, heart racing.
Who recorded me?
And more importantly, why?
I didn't sleep that night.
I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined a camera lens staring at me from the shadows. Watching, recording, judging. I kept glancing toward the windows and corners of the room, half expecting a red blinking light to betray a hidden camera. My laptop sat on the kitchen table like a ticking bomb. The folder was still open on the screen. I forced myself to go through it again. Clip after clip. They were all dated from the past 7 months. Each file was titled with my name and a timestamp. Some were only a few seconds long. Others stretched out over several minutes. There were videos of me brushing my teeth, reading, watching TV, walking around in my pajamas. All of them felt wrong, and one of them made my blood run cold. In the video, I was asleep in my bed. The lighting suggested it was night. My bedside lamp dimmed to its lowest setting. At first, it looked ordinary. I was lying on my side still. But then, a shadow moved across the wall.
Slow.
Deliberate. A figure leaned in from just outside the frame. I could see part of their face. Their profile. It was Jasmine. She stood there for a full minute watching me sleep. Then she whispered something. The audio was faint, but I turned the volume to max. You'll forget again, she said. You always forget. I slammed the laptop shut, so hard the table shook.
What the hell?
I called her immediately. She didn't answer. I called again.
Still nothing.
I texted. I saw the videos. I know you've been in my apartment. You better start talking. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. No reply. My stomach clenched. I drove to her apartment, adrenaline surging through my veins. I didn't care if she was home or not. I needed answers. I needed the truth. When I arrived, the door was slightly open. Something about that felt staged, as if she wanted me to come in. I pushed it slowly, heart hammering in my chest. Jasmine, I called out. Silence. I stepped inside. The lights were on. The air smelled like lavender and lemon cleaner. Everything looked untouched. Pristine. Except on the dining table was a small box wrapped in navy blue paper. My name was on it, in her handwriting. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a stack of photos, glossy, high-quality prints. They were all of me, but not how I look now. These were older. I was thinner, paler. My nose was slightly different. My eyes had a dullness I didn't recognize. But what sent ice down my spine was the background in some of them: a hospital room, a white bed, machines, monitors. In one photo, there was a note taped to the bed rail: Riva, memory restoration scheduled September 14th. What the hell did that mean? The last photo in the stack was the worst. It was Jasmine standing over me, holding my hand as I lay unconscious. Her expression wasn't sad or loving. It was clinical, like I was a science project. I backed away from the table, heart pounding so loud I thought I'd pass out. My knees wobbled. I gripped the edge of the counter just to stay upright. That's when I heard a soft creak. I spun around. Talia stood in the hallway. She didn't look surprised to see me. You weren't supposed to open that, she said softly. My mouth was dry. What is this? What's happening to me? She sighed, almost regretfully. You were doing so well. We didn't think the memories would come back this fast. What memories? I screamed. Why do I have pictures of me in a hospital? Why do you all act like I'm not me? Talia stepped forward. Because you're not. The words hit me like a slap. What? You're not the same Riva we grew up with. That version of you broke down. Years ago. You disappeared after a complete psychological collapse. They found you wandering downtown in your pajamas, muttering things that didn't make sense. You didn't even remember your name.
My head swam.
No, I whispered. I've never. We brought you back, she continued, voice low. Jasmine was part of the restoration team.
Mom and Dad were briefed.
The hospital offered a therapy experiment, radical memory suppression followed by targeted identity rebuilding. You were given new routines, new anchors. The plan was to keep you stable, keep you safe. I felt like I was floating outside my body. This is insane, I whispered. Talia walked to the table and picked up one of the photos. You weren't supposed to remember the hospital, or the tests, or the breakdown. That's why the videos were taken, to monitor your behavior remotely. Make sure there weren't any signs of relapse. Why didn't anyone tell me? I cried out. She looked at me with something that almost resembled pity. Because we wanted you to feel normal. You begged us to erase it all. You signed for the procedure. I stumbled back, shaking my head.
No.
I would never. You were in pain, Riva, she said gently. You hated yourself. Every time you looked in the mirror, you said you saw a ghost. You said you were the ugly sister. That no one loved you. That you didn't belong. Tears blurred my vision. Then who am I now? She gave a faint smile. You're the version of you that you wanted to be. Stronger. More confident. More beautiful, even. That was part of the identity overlay. They said visual transformation would help reinforce the mental shift. I stared at my reflection in the glass cabinet nearby. The unfamiliar face. The one I'd been trying to recognize. It all made sense now, and none of it did. You changed me, I whispered. No, she said softly. You asked to be changed. We just honored your wish. I collapsed into a chair, shaking. What happens now? She looked out the window, then back at me. That depends, she said. Do you want the rest of your memories back? My breath caught in my throat. Was I ready for that? Was I safe for myself? Before I could answer, Talia said, "You should go home. Jasmine will contact you tonight. She'll explain the next step."
I didn't ask what that meant.
I didn't have the strength. I left the apartment feeling like a stranger in my own skin. The world outside looked the same, but it no longer felt like mine. And deep down, I wondered what else they hadn't told me. Because if this was the truth, what was the lie? I barely made it home. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in someone else's life, someone else's body. The world felt distant, muffled, like I was looking through a fogged-up window. Everything was wrong, but I didn't know where to begin fixing it. My hand still gripped the keys as I unlocked the door. Inside, the silence was deafening. The air was thick, suffocating. My heart was racing as I locked the door behind me, as if someone might slip in through the cracks. I immediately grabbed my phone and dialed Jasmine's number. No answer. My fingers trembled as I typed out a message. "We need to talk." The message sat there for a minute before the three dots appeared and disappeared. I bit my lip, waiting, hoping for a response, but nothing came. I dropped the phone on the couch, pacing the room. I couldn't breathe. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. It was her. I opened the door, and there she stood, expression unreadable. Jasmine looked the same as ever, confident, poised, untouched by the chaos swirling around me. Her presence was an eerie contrast to my frayed nerves. I stepped aside to let her in, too shaken to say anything. She walked in slowly, her eyes never leaving mine. "Jasmine," I began, my voice cracking. "What the hell is going on?" She looked at me, tilting her head with a slight smirk. "You're not ready to hear it yet, but I'm here to help you understand." I could feel the tension in the room, thick and heavy, pulling everything tighter. "I'm not asking you to help me. I'm asking you to tell me the truth. Why did you let them do this to me? Why did you let them erase who I was?" Her expression didn't shift. She remained calm, collected. "You were breaking. You didn't want to be the person you were. You didn't even want to be alive anymore." I couldn't hold it in any longer.
"You don't get to decide that."
"You don't get to play God with my life." Jasmine sighed, her eyes flickering with a brief flash of guilt, but only for a second. "I didn't want to, Riva. But you weren't living. You were in pain every day. You told us you didn't want to feel like this anymore. You begged us to make you someone else." I shook my head, backing away from her. "I never wanted this. I didn't ask for this. You can't just rewrite someone's identity and expect them to be okay with it. Don't act like you don't recognize it, Riva. You were a wreck. You couldn't even look in the mirror. I'm helping you become the person you wanted to be." "No, you're not," I shouted. "You're making decisions for me that you have no right to make." Jasmine's eyes narrowed, the calm facade cracking just enough to reveal a hint of frustration. "You think you're better than me because you're whole now? You think you can just walk away from everything that we've done for you?" My breath was ragged as I stood there, stunned. The pain inside me threatened to swallow me whole, and for the first time, I realized how much power Jasmine had over me. She wasn't just some passive bystander. She was the architect of my current self. She had shaped me, molded me into someone else's vision of me. I took a step back. "I'm not who I was before, but I'm not who you want me to be either." Jasmine crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. "You're right. You're not. And neither am I." Her voice softened, almost wistful. "But this is who we are now, Riva. This is who you have to be." I didn't know how to respond to that. The truth was too big, too suffocating. I wanted to scream,
to punch something.
But all I could do was stand there, trembling, as the reality of it all began to settle in. "You can't erase the past," I finally managed to say, my voice hoarse. "You can't just—" I choked on the words. "You can't just forget everything." Jasmine's face tightened, a flicker of anger crossing her eyes. "You don't understand. I tried to help you. I tried to save you, Riva. And now here you are, fighting me like I'm the villain." I shook my head, unable to process her words. I'm not the villain here. You are. You and your precious therapy and your perfect little plan. You destroyed me, and for what? So, I could be a version of myself that was never me. For the first time since this nightmare started, I saw Jasmine falter. Her gaze softened, but it wasn't pity. It was something else. Something far more complicated. I didn't mean for it to hurt you. I just wanted you to be happy. I wanted you to live. A bitter laugh escaped me. And this is how you think happiness works? Jasmine stepped closer, the air growing thicker between us. You think this is easy for me, Riva? You think I don't carry this burden too? Watching you suffer, watching you break down, it destroyed me. Her voice cracked. I did this for you. I wanted to shout. I wanted to tell her how wrong she was, how wrong everything about this was. But there was something in her eyes, something raw, something human, that stopped me. I could see the hurt, the fear, and the exhaustion behind the mask of control she tried to keep. For a second, I didn't know if I wanted to comfort her or slap her. What now? I whispered. What do I do now? Jasmine's face hardened again. You can stay here, in this life we created for you. Or you can remember everything, every painful, broken part of yourself. But either way, you're not getting your old life back. That person is gone. I stared at her, my heart racing, unable to breathe. I wanted to scream, to break down. But all I could do was whisper. Who am I now, Jasmine? For a long moment, Jasmine didn't answer. Then she gave a bitter smile. You're the person who decides what comes next. And with that, she left. The door clicked shut behind her, and I stood there, motionless, in the silence that followed. The door closed with a soft click, but the weight of it felt like a finality, a declaration that nothing would ever be the same again. The house felt emptier now. Jasmine's departure had drained it of its last semblance of normalcy. I walked around aimlessly, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the stillness. I could feel my mind racing, the jagged edges of my thoughts cutting through everything like shards of glass. What had she really meant when she said, the person is gone? Was it true? Had she truly erased the part of me that I used to be? I sank down onto the couch, pulling my knees to my chest. My mind kept spiraling, trying to piece together all the broken fragments. I stared at the floor for what felt like hours, but in reality, it was only minutes. It was as if time itself had bent, frozen, to match the state of my heart. I couldn't feel anything except numbness. The life I had once known was gone, and I didn't know if I was supposed to mourn it or embrace this new version of myself. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I grabbed it off the table, hoping it was a message from Jasmine or anyone. But it wasn't. It was a message from an unknown number. The text read, It's not over, Riva. You don't know the whole story. You were never supposed to remember. My hands shook as I read it again. Who could this be? Who knew about the changes that had been made to me? I typed back quickly, my fingers trembling as I asked, Who is this? The response was immediate. You don't remember, do you? The truth about what happened to you before Jasmine took control. A chill crawled down my spine, an unsettling feeling spreading through my chest. I stared at the phone, my breath hitching in my throat. How did they know? Was this just another trick? A game? Another message popped up before I could respond. You can't escape it, Riva. You were part of something much bigger. You weren't just broken, you were chosen. You'll remember soon enough. Don't trust anyone. I froze. The room spun around me. The words felt like a punch to my gut, leaving me gasping for air. Chosen? What the hell did that mean? How could I have been part of something bigger? I didn't know what to believe anymore. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing, but the overwhelming sense of dread wouldn't leave. My mind raced again, cycling through everything that had happened in the past few months. Jasmine's words, the therapy, the surgeries, none of it made sense anymore. Had I been a part of something more sinister? What if the changes weren't about helping me? What if they were about something else entirely? I could feel a knot of panic rising in my throat. I needed answers, but the more I thought about it, the more the answers eluded me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to collapse, but I forced myself to stand up. I grabbed my phone again and called Jasmine. It rang twice before going to voicemail. I left a message, my voice tight with urgency. Jasmine, I need to know what's going on. What is all this?
Who's messaging me?
What do they mean by chosen? I can't handle this alone. Please, please call me back. I ended the call, but instead of feeling some relief, the silence seemed even heavier. Every corner of the house felt like it was closing in on me. My skin prickled with unease. I walked toward the front door, wanting nothing more than to leave, to run far away from everything. But before I could reach it, my phone buzzed again. I opened it quickly. Another message. You can't run, Riva. You're already in too deep. Your memory will return soon, but by then, it'll be too late. I felt my heart skip a beat. Too late for what? I typed, desperate for some answer. But no response came. I paced the living room, feeling the walls close in. The paranoia began to set in, the feeling that someone, something, was always watching. I could feel it in my bones, the danger that lurked just beyond my reach. But I had no choice but to wait. I had no choice but to sit there, with my heart racing and my mind spinning, until the truth finally caught up with me. Minutes, hours, it didn't matter anymore. Time no longer felt real. Every second seemed to stretch on forever. And then, just when I thought the suspense might drive me mad, a new message appeared. The time is now. My heart hammered in my chest. The phone buzzed again, this time with a phone call. Unknown number. My finger hovered over the screen. I didn't want to pick it up, but I couldn't ignore it. I had to know who was behind this, what was happening to me. With a shaky breath, I answered the call. Riva, a voice said on the other end. It was deep, cold, and unfamiliar. You've been awake long enough. It's time for you to remember. Everything. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I dropped the phone in shock, my hand trembling as I picked it up again. What do you mean? I choked out. The voice was colder now, almost amused. You'll see. It's all coming together. And when it does, you'll understand why you can't go back. You never could. I tried to speak, to protest, but the line went dead. I sat there, stunned. A million thoughts raced through my head, but none of them made sense. All I knew was that nothing would ever be the same. The life I thought I had, the life I thought I knew, I was no longer a part of it. It was gone. There was no going back. The truth, no matter how terrifying, was waiting for me. And as I sat there in the darkness, the one thing I knew for certain was that I was on the verge of something far worse than I could have imagined.